Hey, what's going on YouTube? This is TR Bailey. I'm going to come with you guys with another video. I may be uploading even more videos tonight. We'll see what's going on with that. Like I said in the other video, we are 1 week away from our World Championship qualifier here in North America. And so there's some things that we need to know moving forward to how to win against certain matchups. Now, we all know that Spellbooks and Dragons are the best two decks in the format. However, that doesn't mean that they're the only decks in the format. After those two, you would have to assume that Evilswarms would be the most played. It's relatively inexpensive. It makes a card that completely shuts down dragons, theoretically, on the first turn. And Eradicator Epidemic Virus is definitely an easy card to pull off in this deck. So, enough talking about it. Let's just get to this video. So, the first thing that we need to know is Evilswarm Ophion. So, we need to know how are we going to beat this card. Because if you're playing Dragon Rulers, and that's what we're going to be talking about today, how to beat this deck while playing Dragon Rulers. So, I have played at 2 locals with the Dragon deck. I've played against 6 Evilswarms while playing Dragons. I have 2-0'd 4 of them, and I won in 3 games against the other 2. So I'm 6-0 against Evilswarms. Now, a lot of really good players would say that's really no big feat, and I would actually agree with that. In about 5 of those matchups, I actually lost the die roll. My opponent opened up a turn 1 Ophion every single time, because the deck consistently does that. But I'm going to tell you guys why you should not be losing to Evilswarms. Now, there are going to be games where you're going to get sacked out of it, where they're just going to open up the nuts, where they're just going to say, okay, I'm going to make Ophion after Ophion, and you can't do anything about it. Now, I've played against Evilswarms where my opponent would open up Safe Zone, Solemn Warning, and Rabbit, and I've won. Now, some important things to remember is that if you're playing Dragon Rulers, you're probably playing 3 copies of Veiler. If you're not, I would hope that you're at least playing 2 copies. Now, even though this sounds weird, Rabbit is what you want to see turn 1. Let's say your opponent goes first. You want to have Veiler for Rabbit, because if you can Veiler Rabbit to start the game, then you are in an infinitely better position. Now, if I can Veiler Rabbit, and my opponent can't make Ophion, then they can't win. Now, we understand that the whole deck, Evilswarms, all resolves around not only summoning Ophion, but protecting Ophion by searching for cards such as Epidemic, Pandemic, Epidemic, or something along those lines. I can't remember the name of the card. Heck, I've got a copy of it. It is Infestation Pandemic. You know why? It's because this deck's irrelevant. Sorry to those Evilswarm players. I hope that I am not offensive. Now, we understand that Konami's ruling on Caster is that this card cannot be Veiler, Chaliced, etc. Or actually, you can Veiler or Chalice them, but he's still gonna get the normal summon anyway. So they're just better than you are. They do have one of the best cards in Yu-Gi-Oh! When it comes to a tempo game, which is Evilswarm Thunderbird. This is very true. But unfortunately, this format is not about tempo. Unless you're playing Spellbooks, that's a tempo deck that just says, okay, I'm locking you out of the entire game. So, when we're going into a discussion about this deck, the first thing that needs to be realized is that, once again, the point is to summon and protect Ophion and to hold on for dear life. So that means that your opponent is not going to have a lot of cards that interfere with your plays. A lot of times they're going to have cards such as Forbidden Dress and Infestation Pandemic, and as well as Safe Zone. Now, a lot of times these cards do not particularly mess up your plays. They are just there to simply protect Ophion. Now, some other trap cards that we know they run would be the Solemn Duo, and they would run, some of them run Fiendish Chain, just because it's good in the Spellbook matchup, and it's also solid in their mirror match and against rogue decks. So we understand that Fiendish Chain is very solid against that deck as well. And the fact that Evilswarm Ophion is something that can be easily beaten. Now, they also will play 3 copies of Compulse, because if they don't play 3 copies of the Compulse, they don't know what they're doing. So, my recommendation is, let's say let's say we know we're playing against an Evilswarm player, which happens quite often. One of the biggest strategies when going to a YCS event or a World Championship qualifier, which is what we're going on now, is you need to walk around, kind of try to. You're not going to find everyone. There's going to be 4,000 players at our World Championship qualifier. You're not going to know what everyone's playing, but knowing other people and other people being able to tell you what people are playing is going to be helpful. Go around and look and see who's playing. It's not cheating, it's strategy. If I happen to be paired up against a guy that I know what he's playing, that is all too good for me. So if I know my opponent's playing Evilswarms and I am going first, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to do everything I can to summon a very specific card. And no, it's not Draco Sack. It is Thought Ruler Archfiend. Do you know what this card does? Okay, this card basically, you can pay 1,000 to negate itself from being targeted by spell or traps. So they would have to. So Compulse doesn't work on this card. That's just the truth. Compulse does not work on this card. They have to have Bottomless, but you're trying to go first. So I mean, their comeback plays from this are not very many. Their only comeback play would be to open up 3 different Evilswarms, or an Evilswarm and a Rescue Rabbit, and to go into Bahamut and to go ahead and take this card from you. By doing that, they're going to put up formidable damage. But then you can follow up with a Big Eye play to take it back and beat their guy, and then they have to beat a Big Eye, which is at 2,600, and a Thought Ruler Archfiend in the same turn, or they just simply lose. Now, with that being said, this card, in my opinion, is the best in the Evilswarm matchup, just simply because of that purpose. Now, let's say you ended up losing one of the games, which can happen. Sometimes your opponent's just going to have the nuts. They're going to Solemn Warning your play, they're going to Compulse every single time, and they're going to make Ophi on every turn because that's what the deck's designed to do. Which, if that happens, there's nothing to be ashamed of there. I also feel like in this matchup that there is a lot of times where you can set up Blaster every single turn. Okay, you should be able to activate this effect 2 to 3 times in any match if you so choose to do so. The reason why I say that is because you have plenty of ways of making Blaster an option. If we know that we're going to be playing against Evilswarms, this is the first card I am going to summon. They cannot beat this card, and it goes back to my hand at the end phase of their turn. So by putting this card in play, it ensures that they won't be dealing life point damage and that I'm getting Blaster back. We can Sarco into a Blaster to add Blaster to our hand. By doing so, during the following turn, we have Blaster and maybe we have another Dragon. If we don't, when we wait one more turn, which we can usually survive, to go ahead and Blaster their play. Now, a lot of times, you can do things that makes it to where you can add other fires to your hand. Other cards such as, your Burners. So you can Gold Sarcophagus into this play to have it in your hand with another dragon in your hand and pass the turn. Then beat their Ophion during the following turn. And then if they make another Ophion, Gold Sark will go ahead and add your Blaster back. And then a lot of times, you can abuse your hand to where you can have the other burner in your hand, and you can go ahead and take care of their Ophion twice. I have done this a max of 3 times in a game, and it is not a luck-based thing. This is a skill-based thing that you set up. You just have to know how to play your deck correctly. Sarcophagus is a card that sets you up for success in any matchup, but you need to know what to Sark for and when to Sark for it. So there's really no excuse. Now, a lot of times people will say, well, Maxi, for example, is really bad in the Evilswarm matchup. And this is true. You're going to side them out. However, if your opponent goes Caster into another card, I'm going to drop Maxi, because if they decide not to overlay into Ophion, which would be foolish, then I win. And if they don't, then I'm one card closer to my Blaster play as my out. Now, in addition to having Blaster as an out, you also have cards like Heavy Storm. Now, I understand that Heavy Storm is not going to be an automatic card that you're going to have in your hand. It's not a 3-of like Blaster is, and you can Sark for it, but it'll take 2 turns. But it is an answer, and that should be remembered. In addition to that, Evilswarm, Ophion's defense is 1650, so if you can somehow get it face down or in defense position with something like an enemy controller, then which you usually cannot, but if it's possible, because we know about this card, that's an issue. So we know that that's true. Now, also don't feel pressured to save cards in this matchup. If you open up a play like Chalice Effect Veiler, look, you are only scared of Ophion, and you don't care what their back row is because it's most likely something to protect Ophion. So, if that's the case, go ahead. Go ahead, Veiler the Ophion, and on your turn, go ahead and Chalice the Ophion. There's nothing wrong with that play. It sets you up for success and gives you an opportunity to win the game. Not only can you then take their Ophion, or you can just kill their Ophion. Or it can be at 2950 with Chalice, and if your opponent drops Max C, then you kill them. So, like I said, keep this in mind. This card is very good. Another thing is that in a lot of situations, you can summon this card if you play it in your main deck, or if you side deck it. Either way, this card's very solid because it shuts off Ophion's effect. So if you can shut off Ophion's effect, then you shut off basically the whole deck. I don't care if they have Safe Zone or Forbidden Dress. It doesn't matter. Their card gone. It's not there anymore. It's just a 25-50 beater. And if they damage step Fate or Dress me, I could care less because I'm playing dragons. In addition to that, you should always side in cards like Royal Decree or MST. I personally side one Royal Decree because I think it's solid. The meta is not super trap based, but I do like having the option, as well as I understand that there are going to be some chain burn decks, which don't get me started about stuff like that. But then again, hey, I'm playing dragons, so I can't complain too much. So Royal Decree is going to shut them off. Let's say you have something silly like Royal Decree Side Blocker. That's just game. The game is over at that point, and you are just the better man. So, like I said, remember that this deck is not unbeatable. Remember to set up your blaster plays. Those plays are not very difficult to set up, but you have to do it. You need to know your matchup before you Sark. You need to also remember that this card is absurd in this matchup and is the best card, not Dracosac. Dracosac is good. However, this card is way better, and this is something that needs to be understood by any player who wants to play dragons, and they need to know their matchups. This is the very best card against Evilswarms for many, many reasons. So, like I said, don't fear the Evilswarm matchup. You should win it anyway as a dragons player. This is TR Bailey signing out, and remember to like, comment, and subscribe. See you later, guys.